His Dark Materials deep dive on the Harpies and possibly Land of the Dead. Combined, we're going to go into it now. Spoilers if you haven't read the books. Welcome back to AsArt. My name is Nick, and I have Kyle here with me. Go follow him on Instagram, Pecos, with a 0. He's a super talented artist. He's designing cool shirts for us, and we're working on some cool His Dark Materials shirts. Go follow his Instagram. He'll probably be posting some work in progress stuff. Go follow him. Let him know you came from AsArt. And now, and also, we do a lot of other breakdowns here, the trailer breakdowns, show review breakdowns, deep dives on Dust, Angels, Land of the Dead. Now it's the Harpies, and we're doing much more. Comment down below if you have other ideas and topics for us to do deep dives on for His Dark Materials. Woo! Harpies!
Yes, otherwise I'm just guessing and making content here, what to talk about. What's important to you? Okay, starting off, now, going back to the books, so maybe what we might be able to expect in season 3, right? Yeah. So remember, the Harpies are a sentient creature. They're sentient creatures with the body of a bird and the head of a decrepit woman. However, it looks like they changed the design a little bit in season 3, yes, which is fine. They inhabit the land of the dead as guardians, right? So not so much for the sake of everyone there, but more for like enforcing the authorities' will. Yeah. You can imagine that. Mm-hmm. And then they gave off, they give off a horrible stench. Yes. It's like a combination, a vulture, right? Yeah, it's like a combination of rotten meat and other like terrible stuff.
Very vulture-ish, right? Because vultures even pee on themselves too.
Exactly, right? Just like my gym clothes after a week before washing them. Not the peeing part, but just the stench.
Good, I'm happy you cleared that up.
Moving swiftly along, the authority gave the Harpies the task of guarding the underworld, right? So, he gave them the power to like see the worst in every ghost that's there. So they do this by feeding off the misery of the dead and like taunt them with every wrongful deed they had done during their life, right? So you can just imagine what this is like, done to the citizens of the world of the dead and the Harpies themselves. So though the Harpies attack Lyra and Will at first, when they hear Lyra tell her true story, right? They listen instead of antagonize her. Yes. Right.
They don't call her liar.
Which leads me to believe this is like a different form of nourishment for them. I'll get a little bit in on that.
So basically, at a child's perspective, like mine, it's Monsters Inc. They get charged off screams and they get charged off laughter. Okay.
Yeah. No, I like that. That's a good way to put it. Energy, so after this, after this kind of takes place, a bargain is struck between Lyra and the Harpies. So like in exchange for true stories about the dead's lives, the Harpies would then lead the ghosts to the passage into the Mulefa world made by Will with the cut from the subtle knife, allowing them to become one with the universe. Yes. Right.
Except for children that weren't old enough to tell a story. They were going to let them go through.
Yes. It's like, it's kind of like a similar concept of innocence, right? Yes. They hadn't experienced, they were too young to experience anything in a given story. So now like, you know, pretty much the gist of Harpies, right? Yeah. So like now, like I have some postulations because of just stuff from the books, and how they're kind of portrayed and what we might be able, like, they probably won't go into too in depth with the series, but I just like to think about this stuff, right? As like what Philip Pullman was thinking. But like, it seems the Harpies feed off of like emotions from like, like from stories and deeds. Cause remember, they're feeding off wrongful deeds that anyone had ever done in their lives, right? Which can have differing effects on their nature and appearance. So imagine if you have a diet of eating crummy food every day, you're like eating garbage, you're going to look like garbage, right? So like these Harpies, after millennia of feeding off of all the wrongful deeds of people and like all the terrible things of like, conscious creatures, they're going to look decrepit and be really terrible in nature.
Very interesting. I wonder how they looked before. You think they were like angel-like before?
That would be sick if we got a little glimpse of like before. It's like, all right, well, here's your new workstation. Everyone get along, and they're like beautiful, like these regal bird women. I don't know. Yeah. And then because of their and because of their station granted to them like by the authority, I'd always been curious like why he would put in the effort to torment the ghosts of the dead regardless of their deeds or background, right? Like I don't think they even talk about it.
It's interesting too, because basically they just turn to dust and they become one with matter, right?
Yeah,
forever. Like that's the idea behind it, and then you can find matter in the sky and stuff like that. Maybe they just didn't want to share the space, the angels, because wasn't the angels were matter, right? And then they became physical form or something.
The angels. Well, at least the only thing I know is like the authority.
Yes,
he was the first being manifested straight from dust.
Oh, and then he created everything else,
like very close to the beginning of time. Okay. Yeah. So yeah. Now, as far as the angels, like Baruch and Baruch and Balthamos, they lived. They were living beings, and then they became angels after death. So there's some sort of it's kind of an opaque system.
Yeah.
Right, in that sense.
Because not all angels were like that.
Right, but we're getting into angelology here and not harpiology.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So no.
By the way, check out our angel video. Sorry, we've had this discussion before, but go check out our angel deep dive. Okay, go ahead.
So and I was kind of alluding to this before, like perhaps that's why the harpies have their more creature-like look, like perhaps feeding off so much misery and terrible memories has rendered the harpies inhuman-looking, right? Which kind of makes me think maybe that's one of the reasons for their like look change for the series. And then, or maybe they're just simply creatures from another world, right?
Yeah, and you know what's interesting though too? I like the idea that they grew that way over time. Because think about it, there wasn't a passageway before. It's not like there was an exit out the other side. They kept having to deal with more and more people.
Yeah,
like it's just like at first it's like, oh, there's two people here. The first two people who ever died. It's like, oh, hey, what's your story? Over time, can you imagine? All right, just get in here. Oh my gosh, all these people are dying. The more crazy your job will get, it's not gonna be fun. You're gonna be stressed. Everything will go negative. But
all increased workload and no increase in the salary, baby. It's what the corporations want. Okay, all right. Get off topic.
Okay, so so that's them basically in the book.
Yes, in the book, and then like kind of like how I'm thinking, so it wouldn't be a deep dive without a little look into the classic harpies of Greek mythology and their origins in our myths and stories, right? So in Greek mythology, they are now, of course, this also can go into like get into other cultures as well, like in Sumer and Babylon and stuff like that. But a lot of the stuff we get is from like Greek and Roman sources. So like, they're half human and half bird personification of storm winds. Right. They feature in poems from Homer and like various other writings. So like their description has varied over the centuries with each different sort of author and epic, right? So like they were generally depicted as birds with heads of maidens, right? Faces that were pale with like hunger, and long claws on their hands, right? Roman and Byzantine writers described more of their ugliness.
Oh, right. Interesting.
And then pottery art, like depicting the harpies, featured like beautiful women with wings, right? So like we get like this varied landscape, and then Ovid described them as human vultures. So like, and like in later Greek writings, they were like these vicious agents of punishment who like abducted people and tortured them on their way to Tartarus, right? And Tartarus, so you don't get it confused with Hades. Hades is the larger realm, and Tartarus is a specific abyssal plane within Hades. Right?
So it's very similar to his Dark Materials.
Yes, in a way, yeah, because you have the world of the dead, but within there you have the suburbs, right? That's still in there, and then you've got the land of the dead, right? And then later writers like listed the harpies among the guardians of the underworld, right? So like among like, and they were kind of listed off like among other monsters you could expect to see in Tartarus, like the Hydra, the Chimera, Gorgons, that sort of stuff.
It's very interesting too, because Philip also uses the boat ride to get to the land of the dead too, which is very similar.
Charon,
which
uses and we actually do have that as a topic, if we want. Yes, the boatman.
Yes. So that I can't wait to see the Harpies in action. I know it's not exactly book description, but they do look freaking scary and smelly. And it's gonna be so much fun to see the interaction, especially them shouting liar. I hope they shout liar. Yes. I hope they shout liar. And
yes, with some sort of inhuman like screech or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm also very curious too, how everything's gonna play out too in the Land of the Dead. In this, I'm talking about the show now, not just the book. And it's such a cool character. There's so much behind that, just that one. Well, there's multiple Harpies, but just behind No Name, right? No Name is the name of the main one.
Yeah, like the main Harpy they interact with. Yeah,
which could be the boss.
Yeah.
So it's also very interesting too, because they have to sneak into the Land of the Dead, and they're also scared of the knife, which is something we need to talk about. So the knife can hurt them. And they fear the knife. So that knife is the strongest weapon. And we talked about the knife too. We did a breakdown on the knife. But like every creature is scared of the knife.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if you think about it, the knife has the ability to literally rend reality.
Yeah.
Right? So something that sharp that can tear between space, time, and universes is definitely going to kill some sort of mythological creature. You know,
and it's also very interesting too, because in the book it's like stated the knife has a will of its own. Anyways, we have a knife breakdown here that can really go into that, but it's also
both
really
figuratively
cool
and literally.
But we talk about that in the knife breakdown. So go watch that. Man, I totally forgot we did that knife breakdown. It's been such a long time since we covered
Me too.
His Dark Materials. So, but yes, subscribe to get all the updates. Let us know down below other topics you would like us to discuss and go more on a deeper dive with. For sure, I kind of even want to talk about, I know we haven't talked about this, Kyle, but I'm throwing it out now. It'll be really cool to talk about what happens when the spirit splits from a demon and what happens with that too. And we know the witches already, they're able to separate really far from their demons, and the process on how it happens and stuff, that also kind of goes with the Land of the Dead. So I would like to maybe talk about that as our next topic, or a topic coming around, because that would be very deep and in depth. But that's right, we're just
very metaphysical, very
we're very raw here with our content. We don't have tons of notes. We just like it more as a discussion. But hit the like button if you like this video. Go follow Kyle on Instagram, Pecos with a 0. And go to AsArt.space for audio video links, and that's where we're going to be putting our merch. And we can't wait for the 3rd season of His Dark Materials. So we'll see you on the next AsArt. Liar!
That's sweet merch.
Liar! Liar, liar, liar.
What a wordplay.